Well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. We are so glad that you've chosen to join us here again at the Bass Chapman Fishing Podcast, where faith and fishing hook up. And we've got a great podcast. We're getting a lot of great feedback from our podcast from all over. If you haven't clicked the subscribe button, if you watch on YouTube, you can just hit the red button that says subscribe and then hit the little bell. And you'll not only be subscribing, but you get the little notifications so you never miss a podcast. And we have had some great ones. Last week, we had Mark Davis on, and what a great storyteller and what a great story Mark Davis had. This week, we've got a guy all the way from Chattanooga, Tennessee. Let me give you a couple of stats on this guy. Let me just give you his Bassmaster stats, all right? This guy has fished in 35 Bassmaster tournaments. He's finished in the money 32 out of 35 times. Now, he calls himself a power fisherman, and he is, but let me tell you, this guy is known as the ledge fishing master on the Tennessee chain, but he also proved he can go down to Florida and win too. Two-time BASS winner, Buddy Gross from Chattanooga, Tennessee, is going to be my guest today on the Bass Chapman Fishing Podcast. You need to stay tuned. It's going to be exciting, where faith and fishing hook up right now. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Bass Chapman Fishing Podcast, where faith and fishing hook up. I have in our presence tonight the man who, I tell you, this guy, Buddy, I've read your bio, and man, we got a lot of similarities. I mean, it said, what's your favorite food? Steak. I'm like, I'm all over steak. What's your favorite movie? Tombstone. I'm like, I'm all over Tombstone. I'm your Huckleberry. I mean, this is awesome, man. All the way from Chattanooga, Tennessee. Is that right? That's where you're from. Do you still live in Chattanooga?
Yeah, I really live in Chickamauga, Georgia, but all my business and all my fishing stuff goes out to Chattanooga, Tennessee. So I'm only about 15 minutes south.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Buddy Gross here today. Buddy, I tell you, I was looking at your stats earlier today, and it just stuns me, man. 35 Bassmaster tournaments. You finished in the money 32 out of 35 times. Man, how many people that's how you know that you're supposed to be bass fishing for a living. That's how you know. Guys always ask me, they go, man, how do I know if I need to go pro? And I'm like, if you finish in the money 32 out of 35 times, you ought to be fishing professionally, man. So, wow, that is something else. But, you're kind of known as a ledge fisherman. Now you got power fishermen on your deal, and I know you're a power, but you proved you can go up shallow and catch them too on the Harris chain this year. You're pretty good shallow guy too, aren't you?
Yeah, I like it. I like a lot of pre-spawn, post-spawn stuff. It just kind of makes it a little easier for me to find them. My ultimate goal though is to try to learn these northern swings out. I'm really trying. As long as I can catch largemouth up north, I'm okay. But when I have to rely on the smallmouth, I've been lacking. So I'm really trying to grow in that. I just never had done it till 5 years ago,
Wow. And so, that's really cool to hear a Bassmaster Elite Series pro saying, hey, I need to learn. Because a lot of people think, hey, when you get to the Bassmaster, you just arrived and you're still learning. But tell us how you got into bass fishing. How did you become a professional bass pro? What fishing? What was your journey? Tell us about how you got into it.
Yeah, I was blessed as a young man who had a dad who took me fishing. He kept me in the outdoors, and it had a little spark in me all my life. I had regular jobs. I sold trucks for a living. I general managed a body shop. I've had some labor jobs, but the biggest thing is every time I got a free minute, I went fishing. And I just took an opportunity one time to see if I could qualify, and it happened. And the Lord blessed us at the right time, because when I qualified, I didn't know it was coming. I lost my job 6 months before I was ready to go start fishing for a living. So we just kind of scratched around and made it to the first professional tournament. And I got to win my first year, got to win my second year. And it's just kind of a snowball effect. He gives me what I need when I need it. And that's just where my career is. We live by faith. We probably should save more, but we just live by faith, and he provides.
Man, that's awesome. Where was your first tournament win? Do you remember that? when you got your first professional win?
Yeah, first professional win would have been at Pickwick. It was in 2016. To be real honest with you, that was probably going to be my last tournament. We'd cashed one check in 16, and that was our fifth tournament and the sixth tournament I won. But something just started clicking. I thought we were done. I just stayed faithful, and next thing you know, I won one, and it got me to where I could get back to even. It didn't really help the bank account so much. It just got us back to where we could start another year, from a little bit of scratch. So you just, unless you're born wealthy or have somebody at home with a lot of support, a man like me, you just got to keep scratching. It's no different than sales. You just got to keep digging, and pray a lot. And then all of a sudden you start getting a little. And then sometimes you have dry spells. You just got to keep the faith and work hard. That's the biggest thing, is just work hard. I don't fish enough at home. Probably when I come home, I try to spend a lot of family time. I got a daughter big into barrel racing. So right now, we do a lot of traveling with that too. So it's just a busy world.
How did she get into barrel racing? How was that? That's not one I hear all the time, that she got into barrel racing. How did that happen?
It kind of by accident. She had some friends at school that were going to go to a barrel riding clinic for just pure beginners. Didn't have to have a horse, didn't have to have nothing. And that was almost 2 years ago, a little less than 2 years ago. She went to this clinic, and my wife went to pick her up from the clinic, and they said, "How long has she been riding?" They said, "Well, besides the quarter machine at Walmart, this is about her first time ever." And they like, "They kid me," and I promise you, she's just blessed and a natural. So,
man, wow, I am scared to death of a horse. Yeah. I really am. I'm scared to death of them. I am. I'll run from a horse. I remember one time I went to fish in my uncle's pond, and he had a horse out there. That sucker chased me around there the whole day. It was bad. I tell you, I'm scared to death of them. Well, man, listen, so you're kind of, I know that you got on your bio, you're a power fisherman, but let's talk about this ledge fishing out here. I mean, anytime there's like a Tennessee River impoundment and we're going anywhere close to it, Buddy Gross's name, you're going to be on everybody's fantasy team. I mean, you're going to do that. What is it about ledge fishing out there that lights you up so much? What's the deal with that?
I got my fishing, I guess the first lake I really fished ledges with Big Gunnersville. And then, Chickamauga wasn't great when I was a kid. Chickamauga was great when I was very, yeah. And then, sorry about that. I had somebody trying to call in on us. You still there?
That's all right. Yeah, I'm here. We're here. We got you. We just flickered for a second. We're good.
Somehow it just kind of clicked with me. I kind of knew where that's coming from, where that's going. But once I got really going good on Chickamauga really kicked in, started doing, producing big fish. And I just started figuring out how to catch them on them ledges and got a name for myself locally. And a lot of these guys that we fish against all started locally. So, there's a lot of good hammers come from within 100 miles of Lake Chickamauga. So it just kind of got out there, and it was the rest is history, I guess.
What time of year do they really start getting on the ledges? I mean, when is it when you start licking your chops about ledge fishing that they start? Because I've got a pen right here. I want to write this down when you're doing this. So tell us when
it's ever been a month for me, because it always happens, a different time of year. But if the water temperature is 70 degrees when I put my boat in the water, they fish on the ledge somewhere. That's what just always been our deal. If it's 70 degrees, there's some already spawned in that 58 degree range, and to 58 to 60, and they're done and they're ready to feed back up. So if it gets to 70, I start looking.
You start looking out there on ledges. Now, if you had to, you say, okay, this is going to be, you can fish any way. What's your favorite way to catch them on ledges? I mean, is there an absolute go-to way you like to catch them, or what's the deal? We're going to pick your brain about these ledges today. So what's it?
I mean, I've done that snapper head deal with, a Zoom fluke on it. But then also I do the Scottsboro tackle swim bait. I do the Zoom swim bait, anything that I can keep my hands moving and really power fish for them. I'm not a big dragger. I did get a pretty good win this year dragging, the Carolina rig. So I'm not too proud to drag anything, but I would rather move a bait, crankbait, swim bait, even a spoon or hair jig. It don't really matter as long as I get to move and the bites are there. If I'm consistently getting bit, I won't change. And then when the bite slows down, I pick up something else. I've usually got 6 rods on the deck when I ledge fish, and usually I'm going to get bit on all of them before I leave that spot.
Wow. So, man, you don't hear people talk about the Carolina rig too much anymore. When I was coming up, that's what everybody did. Everybody was like, dragging that Carolina rig out there. And so, you said you caught them. Was that over at the Harris chain that you caught them like that, or where was it that you were dragging and caught them good? You just said that.
I lost you for just a minute.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was just talking about where you talked about you were dragging somewhere this year. Where were you dragging them? A Carolina rig. You don't hear about the Carolina rig.
Harris chain, that really brought it on down there. I mean, it was one of those deals, and they wanted that long, skinny profile, and that's what wound up catching them for me down there.
Man, that's why I wouldn't think that the Harris chain. I like to go down the Harris chain and throw a frog all the time. That's what I'm always thinking about. But yeah, that's pretty cool. Me and my son Wesley fished Fishers of Men down there a couple of years ago, and had a real good time at the Harris chain. But your Elite Series journey. So you qualified through the Opens. Is that right? Is that how you had to come through to get to Elite Series?
I did.
How hard is it for somebody to come through the Opens? I mean, I talk to guys all the time and they're like, I'm pretty good at my club level. And then I've kind of grown up and I'm doing okay in the team trail. So I think I'm going to jump into Opens. How hard is it to fish the Opens and run that gauntlet and get to the Elite Series?
It's crazy hard. I was blessed to do it the first year I ever tried. I fished a couple of Opens, just randomly kind of cherry picked some years ago. But when my first year in, I looked down, I think it was after the second or third tournament, and I was leading the points. I was like, hey, I got a real shot to make a difference here. So it would give me an option if I just bear down and start fishing. And the more I thought about making elites, it seemed like the worst I did. But, I was just blessed to have two lakes. I think we started on the Harris chain, went to Chickamauga. I'm thinking it's James River and Potomac. Not Potomac, James River and Oneida. And I had never seen the James River and I'd never seen Oneida. So, the Harris chain, I've been there once. Of course, Chickamauga being at home, and I finished a third place there, which got me some good points, and made a top 10 at Harris. And I just carried that momentum up north and made it work. But I did just skin by on those northern tournaments. I really almost lost it at the James River. I was like 1 or 2 seconds from being late the second day, I think. I mean, I just really cut it short trying to do all I could do to make the elites. And you got to make some gambles, and you got to have some of them pay off, and you got to have a lot of blessings on your side to make it. It's not an easy journey.
Yeah, man, I tell you, that's got to be. What was it like when you first realized I made it? I'm in the Elite Series. It's got to feel awesome, but at the same time, you're like, man, now I got to go fish against Rick Clunn. I got to go fish against all those guys. I mean, what was that like? Wow, I bet that was.
Get a check at these things. It was, because this is how my family makes their money. My wife was working for a school system here locally, but she's now just strictly trying to help our social media grow and helping me stay organized around the house and take care of our daughter. And we're doing it as a family. So this is our only income. So we've got to make a living, and we got to fish hard, and we got to cash checks, or this will not be the dream that we get to keep living.
Yeah. A lot of guys, when you have a full-time job and you're fishing local tournaments, professional fishing a lot of times sounds like a good thing, but when that's your job, when it's the only way you're getting income, I don't think, talk to us about some of the pressure that, that comes with professional fishing. I mean, it's gotta be, I can't think of a more pressure, guys talk all the time. I wish I could fish for a living and stuff. And they think that you guys are out there, drinking beer and eating Vienna sausages all the time out there, but it's not like that, is it?
I know. I'll give you a good example of Pickwick this week. I was driving an hour to the boat ramp, which means I got up at 4:30 in the morning, drive an hour to the boat ramp, put the boat in, work all day. I cannot stand to leave before quitting time because, we get to fish 30 minutes before sunrise, 30 minutes after sunset. And it's like being at your job, and I felt like I'd be stealing if I'd leave early. So then I'm there till 9:30, 9:45. Hour drive back puts me back at 10:45. Still got to eat dinner. Still got to get gassed up. Go to bed by 12. Back up at 4. And you do that for 3 days straight in practice. Tournament times is the easy time. And you'd think it'd be right the opposite. Practice is brutal.
Yeah.
There's a line. I mean, I heard a lot of these rookie guys come in, and I was an old rookie when I came in, but a lot of these guys are young, still live at home, still have some parents helping them out. They don't have the struggles that we have. I got a big nut to crack here at home to pay utility bills, car bills, school bills. I mean, there's a lot of bills to pay before I can ever even go buy groceries. So, we have to cash checks. It made me change the way I fish. When I think I don't have an opportunity to win, then I'm just looking for a way to cash that $10,000 check. And you've got 94 guys out there all trying to cash that $10,000 check, and all of them can fish. If you make it to the elites, you can fish. So don't misunderstand anything. When you're in the elites, you can fish. So, everybody wants $10,000 check, and then it's like a dog fight. I mean, you really got to bear down and take care of, what little bit of fish you do find and make them last for 4 days is the next problem.
Man, that is some of the greatest advice. Man, I want to cut that out and just say, all right, I'm gonna share this with everybody, because I have so many guys that like the other day I was speaking at my church, and I'm talking to the older people, and they come up to me and go, "Hey, are you going to fish in that Bassmasters Classic this year, Chris?" And I'm like, no, but I was thinking about playing in the Super Bowl, but I think I'm going to do that instead. But they have no clue, what it's like, how to get to the top levels of fishing, and what it takes to stay at the top level. And so that is awesome advice. That's one of the best clips I've heard about, what your day is like, and what it's like repeatedly over and over again. I know, just for me being a marshal sometime at some of the tournaments, when it gets to day 3, I don't want to be a marshal anymore. I don't want to sit out and go down there and ride in that stuff again. And so that's a brutal thing. Now, I'm setting this question up for you because a guy kind of, wanted me to ask you this. Other than Chad Chandler, who has influenced your fishing more? Other than Chad, I'd say Chad Chandler. So we got a good buddy in Chad Chandler, but he asked me to ask you that. He said, ask him, other than Chad Chandler, who has affected your fishing more? So that was the question.
I'm going back to Chad for a minute, because I can't thank the Lord enough for Chad. Chad and I have had a lot of Lord conversations. Chad prayed for somebody to come into his life that he could help, and I promise you, I needed him when he did. And that is a relationship that I'm very thankful for, but tears me up a little bit. But anyway, my dad would be the guy, because he didn't ever let me down as far as taking me. If I wanted to go fishing, he took me. There's a lot of times I probably let him down when I turned 16. I didn't show up for the time to go to the tournaments, but it's been a blessing just to be able to spend in the outdoors with him. And I've met a lot of good people along the way, and I've met a lot of people that fish for themselves, and it makes you appreciate the good ones out there, because they are hard to find good people. And it's a competitive business. Everybody wants to win, but you just got to do it the best way you can.
Man, I tell you, that's a lot to unpack right there. First of all, folks, Chad Chandler is a friend of mine and Budge. Really, he's just a brother. Chad is a pastor, former Army Ranger, great fisherman. I mean, awesome fisherman. And dude, that dude calls me. He called me today. And just said, "How you doing, man? I don't know what I would do without him, in my life." A lot of times when I'm stuck writing messages for you guys, I'll call Chad Chandler up and he'll say, "Hey, why don't you talk about this? Why don't you do this? Or why don't you look at this passage?" And so he's been awesome. And, but the influence of your dad is so important. You can't ever overstate the importance that dads have in the lives of their children. And not only in fishing, but in everything in life, but taking that kid fishing, can make a world of difference. Even when you think that the kid's not listening, or you think that, he's not really into it, some of the best times of our lives, are spent on the water with our dads. And so, that's a cool thing that your dad is your hero. Yeah. Say that again.
Yeah. I said, and we all take them for granted. That's the biggest thing, is you don't know how long you've got with them. And I took it for granted for a long time that he's going to be around and get to see this journey, but he never got to see me fish professionally. So, you do all you can with them while you can. You just never know when they're going to go home.
That's exactly right. Now, you just said something there that's going to lead me into my next question for you. You said go home, when they're going to go home. So you have a relationship with Jesus in your life. Tell us about how that happened, or tell us about how how you met the Lord and how, and following Christ and being a fisherman. What's that like for you?
I always had a mother that kept us around church. She kept me, guided in the right direction. And, I had I had a community I grew up. I grew up in a subdivision, but when I say small, there's probably 300 houses in there. It was kind of ahead of its time. We had our own swimming pool, our own elementary school, our own rec teams. And I grew up with a bunch of kids. And there was a lady in that neighborhood who was a godly woman. And she witnessed to me and talked to me about the Bible. And she babysat me. And one day it just hit me. And I come and met the Lord right there at her house in the middle of the driveway. I can take you to the spot and remember everything that was happening. Remember the sunshine was shining. It was a blessing. And, for a long time, we didn't attend church. I didn't start attending church regularly till I was up in my 20s and got kind of rekindled. Then I fell away a little bit. But, since I've been back into church, which would be about 10 years now, it's been a blessing. Everything has been wonderful. And it keeps me centered. It keeps me focused. And it teaches me a lot about how to treat others and how you want to be treated. And it's just been a blessing for me.
Man, I love that, because anytime I ever ask you to, to pray at an Elite Series event, and that's really what's really cool is Bassmaster lets us pray at every event. I know they pray at Major League Fishing too. And anytime I ask you, you're always up there. And, on other podcasts, I've heard you, guys that aren't really faith friendly a lot of times, they'll ask you, and they're always watching us, and they're always watching people who are followers of Christ. And it's always a hard deal, hooking a fish and losing it on camera and stuff like that. It's hard. And people think that Christians have like, their charm lives, and everybody thinks that Christians are perfect. That's the furthest from the truth. A Christian is somebody who realizes they aren't perfect and they need a savior. And that's what happened to you, and you had somebody in your life that cared enough to share the gospel with you and share with you. And that not only makes a difference in your life now, but it's going to make a difference in all of your eternity. And, when I met Christ, that's an eternal change that God is going to bring in our lives. And one of the things, we try to do as we try to share with other anglers and share with people that we come around that you can have anybody that will call upon the name of the Lord, can come to faith in Christ. They can come if they'll come just as they are and turn from their sins and repent. And God says he steps out of heaven and steps into our lives. And that's just an awesome, awesome deal. And I appreciate your stand on that. And it's hard, man. It's hard to, when you're on the Bassmaster Elite Series and you're under all this pressure and stuff, and everybody's watching you. But it's so awesome that we have the Spirit of God that lives in us. And we know, no matter what happens, he's never going to leave us and he's never going to forsake us. So let me ask you this one. So you come to faith in Christ, you're walking on Bassmaster Elite Series. Now let's help some anglers out here. Okay. What are some tips that you see that you could tell young anglers or guys that are just getting into fishing? What are some tips that you'd give them? The most important things that you could say, all right, this is what I would do if I were you, coming up and fishing. What are some things they can learn that you can share with us today, just on the fishing side of
it? I want to say this. This is how I look at it. So I want to say this up front. It's God's time. It's not our time. And then when it's your time, he's going to put it there for you. So you just got to let life happen, have faith it's going to happen correctly. And then you go out and execute to the best of your ability. But, the biggest lessons that I've learned is you can never be prepared enough, over prepare. I've learned the hard way. I never fished out of the back of anybody's boat. Even when I was with my dad, 99% of the time I was running the boat. And we did what I wanted to do. So when I got into this game, I didn't know what a drop shot was, didn't know what a wacky worm was, didn't know about the different lines. I mean, I didn't have YouTube as a tool. I had to learn the hard way. I learned how to read maps. I learned how to read 2D sonars. So I got a good friend of mine's son is down fishing the high school championship or something at Pickwick this week. And their boat tore up. They had to borrow a boat. It don't have spot lock. It only has 2D sonar. And I've listened to all of them complaining about it. And you just make sure you're ready for that kind of day. You've got to kind of not rely on everything so much. Learn how to triangulate, line 2 poles up so you can find your stuff. I mean, you never know when your equipment's going to fail. You just really got to prepare. And the next thing is do your best not to lose any. If I had not lost the fish I've lost this year, I've had a really bad year about putting fish in the boat. I've had opportunities after opportunity after opportunity. You've got to capitalize on your opportunities. Work on your technique, work on putting the fish in the boat, and all the rest will come. You put the fish in the boat, you find the fish, catching's easy. The rest of it's what's hard.
Man, that's good advice. I never really kind of thought about it that way. I guess with a kid growing up now, they have so many resources with the internet and so many things that they can go to. And so to have to go back and fish kind of old school, would be a challenge, lining up when you say, triangulating. I remember trying to, I remember one time at Lake Wateree, one of the trees that I used to triangulate fell over. So I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm lost out here. But that's true. I never really thought about it like that. As a lot of those guys, come up and in the fishing world now, and they can't, they can't not rely on it.
A funny story real quick. This is a buddy of ours. We were all friends, but we were very competitive friends at the same time. I grew up fishing niggerjack mostly. Once I started tournament fishing, niggerjack is in between gunners on Chickamauga. Don't talked about a whole lot, and it's not a real big lake, so it don't take many boats to fill it up. But I can remember that we'd fish those afternoon tournaments, jar flies, dog fight, whatever everybody calls them, wherever you're from. But it was a small afternoon tournament, and we were all running to this one area, and there was an old floated in log, and everybody used that log as their stopping point. And sometimes I'd get out and run. I tried to have a fast boat back in them days, but one day in practice, I said, I know what to do, and I ain't got to worry about getting up here. I can go second if I want to. So I took that tree and I drug it about 300 yards from where it had been, and everybody went to that tree.
Oh man, what a great strategy, man. That kind of fits into the David Dudley defensive, fishing type of strategy there. That's pretty cool deal. Well, let me ask you this question. So, what is your least favorite lake that you've ever fished, and what is your favorite lake that you've ever fished? Let's go there and just see, what you like there. What's that? So, least favorite and favorite.
Least favorite still probably going to be something like St. Lawrence. It's something so new to me. The current, especially if we get to go out in Ontario. I've fished my whole life and I've been a lot offshore, but I get a little bit seasick, so I'm a little nervous about the lake. So I don't really like it at all, St. Lawrence. But so that's probably my least favorite right now. But my favorite's probably gonna be Chickamauga, because every cast there for the last 7 years, you could hook into one truly the fish of a lifetime. I mean, I have caught so many fish over 10 pounds in the last 7 years up there. It's crazy. I've caught a 13.5, multiple 11 pounders, but those 14 and 15 pounders still swimming in there. They shock up. State record came out of there not many years ago. So Lake Chickamauga is still my favorite, and it gets a lot of pressure now. There's a lot of boat traffic. Chattanooga's growing and the lake's not getting any bigger, so it's getting to be more crowded, but it still produces time and time again.
Man, that Chattanooga area is such an awesome area. My wife used to love to go to Chattanooga. We go to Chattanooga all the time, and we've gone out on a little boat cruise out there and gone over all the little bridges and all the downtown area. And it's really an awesome place down there. But so many good lakes on the whole, Tennessee River, an amazing fisheries, and they just keep on. I can't believe all the pressure that those lakes get, and yet they just keep on producing. I mean, it's wild. So let me ask you this: with your forward-facing sonar, how much has that changed your ledge fishing when you're out there? And I mean, is it all? I mean, are you seeing everything, or are you kind of just idling over and seeing them, or what's your way to know? Okay, this is where I need to be today. So when you're out there,
I'm still leaning heavy on the 360. I have all the live stuff, but now I'm really able to follow the ledges more. I mean, like used to, I'd have waypoints everywhere. It looked like a dotted up map, but now, I'm able to follow ledges. I'm able to find isolated structure on these places. So, not just a spot, a casting deal. Now you can actually move out. Fish move with pressure, and the more pressure we get, the more they move. They're relocating themselves on breaks. Just because you caught them on that main point on that bar that was the best place ever. Well, now they may be 100 yards from them, and other people that don't know that are missing them. So you really just got to dial it in, and it's best to do a lot of practice after a tournament, because if you go out there after a tournament, those fish have relocated themselves and you can find where they go when they get pressure, and it makes it easier to find them during the tournament once they get that pressure. That's probably the best secret I've ever let out of the bag, too.
Man, I'm telling you right now, I was thinking, wow, that's a guru type of secret right there, because I can't tell you how many times I've gone to a place and, the spot, well, I want to get on the spot, and you get on the spot and they aren't there. And those fish could actually just be 50 yards over here, 50 yards over there, and you'd never know it. But now you've got the tools to be able to say, oh yeah, they're right over here. Yeah, I see them, right over there. That's amazing. Yep. That's good stuff right there.
Those have done is they've made it a lot easier to find and relocate those fish that they get hard to find once they get pressure.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. They move off and do that. Well, let me ask you this. So I didn't prepare you for this moment in the podcast, but this is one of the most beloved moments of our podcast. And that's when we ask you to impersonate another angler. Okay. So if you had to impersonate another angler, now while you're thinking, I'm going to tell you, we've had Edwin Evers done. We've had Cliff Crochet done. We've had Tommy Biffle done multiple times. We've had a lot of guys that have done some really good anglers. If you got an impression of one of your fellow competitors out there. Oh, and we had a guy on there as a turkey guy, Mark Prudhomme, and he was like channeling Gerald Swindle one time. It was pretty obvious, like Gerald was there in our presence. But if you got an impersonation you can do, an impression that you can do for us today, who you got?
Look here, mate. I got to get my big swim bait out. I got to throw it up here against the rocks, mate. It's a great bait. It only catches giants, so that would be Carl. Carl Jockerson's my name.
Carl's like, yeah. Hi, Mike. Good to see you there. Yeah, I love him. I love the, it's really awesome to see. I mean, how does a guy from Australia get to be a pro bass fisherman? Man, that's just awesome. And, all the Japanese anglers that we got, and Taku and all those guys, and they're coming in here. I mean, Taku hit the ground running, but I mean, that dude he's a monster. And, I got a chance to ride with him one time up there, and he's just something else. But those guys were wild. But yeah, Carl is one of the nicest guys, man. He's just a great guy. So really cool.
Yeah. Talking my rookie class, Brian Smith was in my rookie class. Man, there was a lot of Austin Felix. There was a lot of great anglers came in when I did. And, made it harder for me to try to get that daggum rookie year trophy. I missed that one.
Yeah, man, that was a tough class. I remember that. And I remember when you came in, or I remember, Taku coming in and all those guys, and giving them Bibles in the Bible line, handing out Bibles to all you guys, and doing that down there in Florida. And so that was a great time. Well, man, I'll tell you what, I've really enjoyed chatting with you. I appreciate you being on the podcast. We're going to be heading up to the St. Lawrence. I can't talk about that, but I'm excited. I'm not excited about the $5 gas prices, but I'm excited, to get back. It seems like that we're, we got things kind of spaced out this year a lot more than we have been in the past. It's like we have a couple of tournaments, then we got a long break, and we have a tournament, and then we have a long break. And but I know that you guys are gearing up to go, and I know you don't like the St. Lawrence too much, but maybe it'll turn around for you this time, and you get up there and hammer those fish up there. That'll be a great deal. But I'm looking forward to it.
It's hard to fish up there. They bite up north, so it is always fun to go. But I am so competitive. I want to be competitive there, and I'm doing everything I can. And and everybody thinks all of our tackle's free. When I go up north, it costs me 3 times what it costs me to fish down south, because I have to buy something new, or better, or longer, or smaller fishing line. I don't have none of that stuff, but we are learning. But I got to say, you was talking about Chad Chandler earlier too, and Chad called me at lunch, and I didn't back, so I'm in trouble. Chad, I'm calling you when I hang up. I promise.
Chad will get on you, man. You better get on there and call him. He's a great guy, man. I tell you, I love talking with him all the time. But man, I appreciate you being on there, and it's amazing. You talk about how much we got to buy. It's wild how you get all this stuff in your boat and you can always find something else to buy. And that's kind of universal throughout the whole fishing world from the early age all the way. It seems like they're always biting something we don't have, but maybe this is the year that you'll put it together. But we're going to be heading out to St. Lawrence, and then we're headed over to South Dakota, and then finishing up in Wisconsin. So that northern swing is going to come up real soon. I tell all my buddies in South Carolina, I always try to get them to go up north with me and say, hey, let's go up there and let's take a fishing trip. And they're like, man, I'm not going to drive 1,300 miles. And I tell them, you'll catch more fish in 2 days up there than you will the entire summer in South Carolina. And so it's a great swing. I love it up there. I really do. Really cool. Well, man, thanks for being on here with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, Buddy Gross on the Bass Chaplain Fishing Podcast. If you have any questions, feel free to ask us in our comment section. If you haven't subscribed, just hit that red subscribe button and then hit the bell notification, and you'll be notified every single time the Bass Chaplain Fishing Podcast comes up. We'll see you next time. This is the podcast where faith and fishing hook up.